Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publicists Association's Let It Be Known. It is Thursday, June the 16th, 2022. The nearly 3 dozen people arrested for allegedly conspiring to riot near an Idaho Pride event over the weekend appear to be affiliated with the hate group Patriot Front. Police have said the group was called one of the most prominent white supremacist groups in the country by the Southern Poverty Law Center early this year. And just who is this latest group of white supremacists? We're going to discuss that also. The sale of guns to Black Americans rose 58% in 2020, the year George Floyd was murdered by a Minnesota police officer, sparking a nationwide social justice movement. According to the National Shooting Sports Foundation, a firearms trade association, it was the highest bump in gun sales of any ethnic group that year. We discuss all that and more with Barrington Salmon of the National Newspaper Publicists Association. Good morning, Barrington.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I am well. Good to see you as always. Barrington, the Patriot Font, police front.
Front.
Is it front or font?
Front.
I kept going back and forth like, who calls themselves font?
No,
the
front.
Patriot Front.
Front.
Got it. Well, Barrington police recently swarmed a U-Haul truck in Idaho after receiving a tip from a witness who said the truck was carrying what looked like a little army. This is a new group. It's not. I mean, not necessarily a new group. Apparently, they've been tracking this group since 2017, but now they have come into the forefront. It seems like they're all out there, Barrington, and many more are waiting to come out of the woodworks.
Yeah, one of the things about Idaho, if you've done any reading, Idaho is like the wellspring of white resentment, these white domestic terror groups, and that type of thing. It's not unusual. These guys, the Patriot Front, they said was they changed their name after that young white boy killed Heather Heyer at the who was a counter protester at the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017. And it's, I think we've talked about this before, but I'm always frustrated when I read stories about these groups because it's apparent from the people who are writing it that they don't make the connections. They don't connect the dots.
Right.
Folks like the Southern Poverty Law Center and other groups, they are monitoring these hate groups, and they in 2007, the FBI had a report that came out saying that if things continued with the growth of these militia groups and these white whatever groups, these groups that believe the idea like that 18-year-old shooter in Buffalo that only white people should be in America. That's their thing, and they've formed all these groups because they really are interested, I believe, in starting a race war to get rid of anybody who is not white, male, and Christian. So,
well, and it's so interesting because we always, every is a cycle, right? We always hear about these so they want to start race wars. I mean, when is it going to ever be ingrained in these folks that this is not their country, right? They claim this country. They say we're the outsiders when the country was clearly built on our backs of Black and brown people, Black people in particular.
Yeah.
What fuels them, Barrington?
If you any good historian, anybody who takes time to look at this has been 400 years of acculturation, of being told that God is the reason why Europeans came here and performed genocide and against killing between 50 and 60 million Native Americans, enslaving Africans, basically enslaving women until until early 20th century. This is something that they believe. It's I want to say fascinating, but it's not fascinating because it's deadly for those of us who are on the other side. They honestly believe all of what we're seeing, and we have to connect the dots, Stacy. All of what we're seeing with the voter suppression, with the attempts to rig elections to ensure that the white minority party, which is the Republican Party, it's not even a party anymore, what used to be the Republican Party, all of everything that we're seeing, Trump, Steve Bannon has advocated the idea that only white male landowners should vote in America in 2022, right? So
Yeah.
all of this, what we're seeing, all of this that's percolating is because they're afraid of becoming a minority. The browning of America in they're saying 2030, 2040. So all of this agitation is because of that. And if you look at the so-called manifesto that murderer in Buffalo did, and that a lot of these guys write when they kill all these people, they killed 11 innocents in Buffalo, 11 black people that this man, he's not a boy, he's 18 years old, that he went and murdered. They talk about the great replacement. They believe that there are too many of us and that in a certain amount of time, they're going to be replaced. And all of this, the murders, the black people in the United States have been the target of the most hate crime acts followed
Isn't that
by Jewish people.
and isn't that something that we could talk about, because we hear all the time. I mean, we look, black folks in general. We tend to, we have causes. We've always had causes, and our major cause has always been equality.
Yeah.
It's been freedom. It's been justice, right? And every time, Barrington, and I'm glad the way you put it, because every time there's another cause, and this is not in any way a slight against anyone else. It's not to say I don't care about it or we shouldn't care about anyone else, but we had the big thing with Asian hate, right? That took over, right? Of course, there's the BTQ situation where they are attacked just simply because, and then we co-sign everybody, and yet it seems like, okay, we put everybody in the forefront, and then we just fall back. We fall back. Black folks have to take the short end all the time, or that we have to take the back seat all the time. And isn't that a problem in itself?
It's a huge problem, Stacy. We have Juneteenth coming up on Monday. I get pissed every time I read the newspaper or hear the news, because even though the Democrats are supposed to be the ones who control all three branches of government, they have been stymied by Mitch McConnell and all of the rest. And it's interesting. We can't just blame McConnell and the Republicans. They always keep on saying very quietly that you have more than a few Democrats who support Republican positions, but they use McConnell as cover.
Or Manchin and Sinema as cover.
Manchin and Sinema, yeah, the two most obvious ones. The George Floyd Police Reform Act died because even though police unions supported various provisions in it, it didn't happen. Everything that black people have been demanding, voting rights, all of these things, nothing has passed. And that's why I said the last time I was on here that the Democrats are going to be beaten around the head and face in the midterms, because they got overwhelming support from African Americans when Biden was running, and they haven't got anything in return. And for all the long list of demands that African Americans have, what did we get? Juneteenth.
Well, and even Juneteenth, you saw last week we talked about this on the program last week.
Yeah.
Walmart even tried to trademark Juneteenth.
Really?
Yeah, really.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then they had their Juneteenth ice cream, and of course the Children's Museum out, I believe it's Indianapolis, with the watermelon salad for Juneteenth. Yeah, it's almost as if they are front and center and making a mockery out of all things black, right?
Yes. Did you see the recent poll of Republicans that said like 60% of them believe that they are more racially targeted than black people? And that's like, these people are idiots. They are the ones who sit in the catbird seat in terms of access to resources, to privileges afforded to them, not afforded to black people. And yet they say, just because they're saying that, they can't do the types of things that they used to do in 1950 or 1940. It's madness, bruh.
We tend to point to, and for obvious reasons, Donald Trump, for the rise of white supremacy, and of course we saw what happened on January 6th, and this committee led by Benny Thompson has really laid bare all of the crimes of Donald Trump and that administration. Exactly.
Yeah.
But Barrington, it's not just Trump, right?
No, this goes way beyond Trump, bruh. One of the things that it's very easy for us to say, oh my God, it's Trump, 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 Trump. Yeah, Trump is a megaphone. Trump is the cancer that has metastasized this white racist philosophy and mentality. But this has been here the whole time. If you go back, I'm always struck by how often the cycle goes back. In 1898 in Wilmington, North Carolina, Dr. Chavis's backyard, white domestic terrorists overthrew the legally elected government. It was a mixed government of blacks and whites, lynched, burned, and ran them out of town. It ain't in no history book. They don't talk about it. But every single time, right? Bloody red, what was it? In 1919, when they had all these race riots all over the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Every time that African Americans start making progress, there's this backlash. What happened in Tulsa? What happened in Rosewood? What happened in Elaine, Arkansas, where black farmers they tried to unionize and they killed more than 200 of them. That's not in the history book.
Yeah, absolutely. And our NMPA's executive administrator, Claudia Perry, says it is madness, Barrington. Republicans are very good at creating a narrative.
Yeah, and I have talked to analysts, political analysts, who, if they have hair, they're pulling their hair out because they're like, the Democrats don't have a coherent message. They are mealy-mouthed. They're weak. They're feckless. Regardless of what it is that Republicans support, they're always unified. One voice, one message, and they keep on hammering and hammering. And I mean, the impending demise of Roe versus Wade is a perfect example of the way that Republicans work. They started working in 1972. As soon as the law was passed, it was passed 72 in 1972, and they started planning and strategizing how they're going to overthrow this. It took them 50 years, but they were on the verge.
Well, it shows a stick to this too, right? They stuff. Paris at the Baltimore Times, Paris Brown, she writes in Barrington that our voice is passionate and our issues and causes are real, but other ethnic groups attach themselves to our bandwagon when it benefits them. This is nothing new.
But Stacey, I am not African American in the traditional sense. My folks are Jamaican, Caribbean. I was born in London and that type of thing. And I always have conversations and discussions and fights with immigrants, Black immigrants in particular, Caribbean immigrants in particular. And I tell them, because when I came here first, people told me, don't talk to them Black people. Them Black people are lazy, they're shiftless, and I told them to go to hell. I'm going to be the one that makes a choice to find out for myself who these Black people are that I'm meeting for the first time. If it wasn't for African Americans, I don't know where we as immigrants and where this country as a whole would be. Because you all have taken the brunt of the murders, the beatings, the brutality, and all of the things that have been meted out by these people, these good Christian people, right? We, but you all, and I'm saying African Americans, you haven't benefited the way that you should. You all have done the hard work, and every time that I said it the last time I was on, this is like Lucy and Charlie Brown with the goddamn football, because every time that they say we're going to give you this, and you start moving towards it, they move the goalposts.
Yeah, that's I saw a television show recently that was a great line. Every time you know that you get in scoring position, they
Yeah,
move the
yeah.
goalpost back. You know,
Something,
and this Patriot Front, they arrested 31. They were all dressed in Barrington blue shirts, khaki pants, some wearing logos and insignias consistent with those of
yeah,
all Patriot Fronts. You know, that's throughout the country. But you know, there's a certain you hate to stereotype anyone, but there's a certain look to these guys,
yeah,
and so and I say that to say this: if you when you think about how the authorities investigate people and especially with black people, we talked before the show about how they, you know, Greer mentioned them bugging Martin Luther King and you know they select, right? It's easy for them to pinpoint somebody in Black Lives Matter or whatever. Well, it's extremely easy to pinpoint these guys. Why aren't they bugging them? Why aren't they wiretapping them?
listen. The FBI said in 2007 that white domestic terrorism looks like it's projected to be the biggest threat to the United States. It has come to fruition, and every time you listen to Christopher Wray of the FBI, or if you listen to Mayorkas and all of these other dudes who headed the Department of Homeland Security, they're acting like, oh my God, we don't know what to do. They know what to do. Why would you arrest 31 people, 31 Patriot Front members who were planning to go and disrupt and kill and maim people at a gay pride rally, and bail them out at $300 per person
These are
for
young people,
rioting?
Barrington. That's the other thing.
That shows you that they don't care.
Yeah.
They said that none of the 31 people came from Coeur d'Alene, if that's right. The city.
Yes.
None
Yes.
of them came from. They came from like 10 or 12 or 15 other states. And because the police arrested them, they're doxing them. They put the names and addresses of all the cops in that police department on social media. They're getting death threats. All of the things that these little small hollow little men do when they are not getting their way. They're petulant when they don't get their way, but they're dangerous. And something that you're going to talk about a little later is there's a through line, because with what happened in Buffalo, with one white boy deciding that he doesn't like black people, he hates black people, he's going to go kill black people, more people are buying guns, because you can't go to church, you can't go to the supermarket, you can't go anywhere without these fools deciding that they want to try to kill you. So you better, you know, I don't like guns, but I'm not sitting around waiting for someone to come shoot me.
You know, it's so interesting. You know, they racists say blacks we all look alike, which you know we don't, but these guys all look alike. I mean, my gosh. And
Yeah.
speaking of gun ownership and guns, Barrington, let's do talk about that. The sale of guns to Black Americans rose 58% in 2020, the year that police murdered George Floyd. Black folks are starting, you know, to really. There's been a gun ownership before in the Black community, but not. It's unprecedented now. It's the highest bump in gun sales of any ethnic group, according to those who track such stats. The National Shooting Sports Foundation is one who tracks that. But you know, in the first quarter of last year, a report revealed that 90% of gun retailers reported a general increase of Black customers, including an 87% increase among Black women.
Yeah.
There's a there, you know we always talk about this. At some point, some people, black people are going to start shooting back.
But Stace, remember too, one of the things that I always kind of marvel at is that whenever you read, watch, listen to things that happened in the civil rights movement, they
And
try
wait,
to make
Barrington, and let me just clear that up.
yeah,
Legal gun ownership. There's a bump in legal gun
yeah, yeah,
ownership.
yeah. They always try to make it seem like black people were just sitting down waiting for people to come kill them. There was always, there's always been a very active gun group of people. The Deacons for Defense, with I think they was founded by Robert Williams. They were the ones that protected civil rights workers, Martin Luther King, Stokely Carmichael, and all those folks who were moving around the South during the civil rights movement. They were um, Vietnam and Korean War vets, and you need to read what they were doing, because they fought the Klan, they fought the white citizens councils, and anybody who sought to hurt black people. Oh, they put it to them, Stacy. They put it to them. What Ronald Reagan did with the Black Panthers in 1966, 67, that's when the NRA really became the organization of white people, because the idea of young black men walking around with guns, even though it was legal to carry, it scared the crap out of them, and they were like, we got to find a way to push back against this. I would not be surprised if we don't see some type of backlash against black people now beginning to own guns.
Well, it is said that the black gun owners, old and new, have reported that the rise in legal gun ownership is a byproduct primarily of the fear that they could be targeted, like those in Buffalo, those at the Emmanuel AME Church in South Carolina.
Yeah.
And we remember that in 2015 when 9 black church members were killed by white supremacists. To that point, anti-black hate crimes rose nearly 40% in 2020, which is the latest year that stat is available. Yeah. So what we have here, go ahead, Barrington.
I was just going to say that what really pisses me off is that the little white boy that killed the folks at Mother Emanuel Church, the cops took him out to eat a hamburger before they took him to jail. And this white boy killed all them people in Buffalo, and he was allowed to walk out unscratched. Yeah. I say all the time, I get in trouble all the time because like on Facebook and social media, I tell them all the time, if black people were the ones who were rioting on January 6th, there'd be a stack of bodies. But they said that they didn't want to do anything in terms of pushing back against, law enforcement didn't want to push back against the white people, the white Trump supporters, because of the optics.
Yeah. Well, and you think about it too, and this is from the FBI, Barrington, in the first quarter of 2021, last year, the first quarter, there were 2,755 reported incidents targeting black people in America, the most besieged racial group by a considerable margin. So they're coming for us.
Yeah, and what I say, for some reason this word is coming up. I'm amazed when I see conversations or talk to people, and you still have people like, I'm like, don't you see the danger? Don't you see what's coming? And they're like, they're in headlights. Excuse me. White people wouldn't do that. White people, really? You're not looking around to see what they've been doing? And of course, it's not all white people. But I constantly make the argument that anytime that white people, the majority of white people in this country want this to stop, they will. But it's not in their interest. They don't care about what's happening to black people. And I keep on telling them, don't come to me for a solution because you all created the problem. So you all need to fix it.
You know, a guy named Philip Smith started the National African-American Gun Association in 2015, and look at their membership. right? He calls it a true movement. His organization has 48,000 members nationwide, and he's gained more than 1,000 or more each month since 2020, and has nearly 107,000 followers on Facebook. So, so there's this surge in interest again, and we underscore that it's legal gun ownership we're talking about here. It's a surge in interest among black people in general, but Black women too. They are representing the higher end of
Yeah.
those who are purchasing legal protection.
But they, you know, most of these people that are running around acting like they're big man around town, these Patriot Front and all them, they're cowards. They're not gonna roll up on brothers the way that they would roll up on women, because they think that women are weak and whatever. But I think it's a really good thing that anytime they roll up on them, they're gonna get something to move away with. We cannot sit down and allow them to continue to murder, maim and kill us, victimize us. We got to fight back. And I've been saying that. And I mean, people are like, oh, well, Barrington, no, we got to protect ourselves. Because I'm telling you, hurt my child, hurt my family. Yeah. All right.
Nothing more needs to be said, right? We want to avoid a RICO charge, Barrington.
There you go. they're probably listening and getting ready to investigate Stacey and Barrington.
We were having that discussion prior to going on, and that's something we will talk about.
You need to
going forward. That situation with Young Thug and those other hip hop artists with the RICO charges, based on really the lyrics in their music.
But if for me, if nothing else, everything that has happened that has been spurred by the Trump era is just a good illustration of how useless laws and institutions are. Because all these things that they had in place that they said are immutable, that nothing can break them down, they have been eroded and corroded by Trumpism, by so-called white supremacy and all this stuff. And all of the protections that African Americans and other colored people had is either gone or going. Because trust me, as soon as the leak came out about the draft opinion on Roe versus Wade, you had all these little, and I'm not going to say what I want to say, but you had all these people who came out and said, okay, when we get that, what else are we targeting? Almost all of our civil rights are in danger. Your privacy rights are in danger, right? And I see people making noise, but we need to make more noise because we are
talking loud ain't saying nothing. That's not going to help.
But the thing for me, I have always argued this, and I get major grief. My thing is like having Malcolm and Martin and everyone in between that continuum. You have to me, the only way that you get real change is if they understand that we gonna roll peacefully, and if not, then we gonna do the alternative, because power concedes nothing without struggle. And they, like I said, they make these promises. They say look at all the money that that all of these social justice organizations got following George Floyd's murder on May 25th, 2020. Was it 2020?
Yes.
2020. And all these commitments to change and commitments to diversity, inclusion, and equity, it's all gone. It was all talk.
Yep.
So when I see a Walmart or a McDonald's, I just want to throw something at the TV, because they're liars. They're liars. They're liars. And one of the things that I would encourage people to do, go to the website and look at the New Georgia Project in terms of how they were working when they were trying to get pressure legislators and corporations to not support the legislation. Most of the major corporations in this country are the ones financing all of this crap that the Republicans are doing.
Yeah, Barrington, great points. I hate to stop you there, but we are unfortunately out of time. Just rolling along. We appreciate, of course, always appreciate the insights of Barrington Salmon. A really fantastic journalist, right, Barrington?
Thank
Doing all the good work. Don't forget to go to NNPA/events or -events.com to register and join us next week. We're going to be in New Orleans having a great time observing the 195th anniversary of the Black Press of America. One of the many exciting and informative discussions will be a public policy and media income workshop in dialogue with Dr. John Warren, the publisher of the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint. An abstract of the panel says that public policy is the result of local issues growing and becoming law. Such laws become public policy, and media for a price provides discussion. Should be interesting to say the least. And don't forget to check us out tomorrow. You know, we had his uncle on one time and everybody came watching. We're having the great Skip Marley, the grandson of the legendary icon Bob Marley, on tomorrow live right here on Let It Be Known. Check out Skip Marley tomorrow. And that's when we'll see you next, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time live.